Hey there, Amanda from the Happy Homestead. I am swimming in cucumbers. We have so many cucumbers from our garden so far this year, and trust me, I'm not complaining. Last year was kind of a bust with the cucumber beetle and all kinds of little worms. So this year, I'm so excited. We have pickling cucumbers. How beautiful are they? So I'm going to make some fermented pickles. I went back and forth on this. I wasn't sure if I wanted to can some pickles or ferment some. Just recently, probably in the last week, I actually canned, I think 12 or 15 pints of dill pickles. So I don't think I want to can anymore right now. I think I really want that fermented tang and that fermented flavor in our refrigerator. So that's what's so great about this recipe, is that you don't have to have any canning experience to do this yourself. So we are going to ferment some pickles. Let's get started. All right, so I think I've got everything in front of me. We'll find out as we go along. But the flavor I want to go with is a garlicky dill, as well as maybe a little heat. So I've got some dehydrated hot peppers here from previous year in the garden that I may add to one of these jars. I've got 2 quart jars and 1 pint jars, and I did do wide mouth for both. It just makes it easier when you're stuffing everything in. So one thing to note, you want to make sure that when you are making pickles, whether you're canning or fermenting them, there's a difference here, right? This is actually kind of an overgrown pickle, or cucumber. You want to make sure you're using the right kind of cucumber to make your pickles. There's like a pickling cucumber, right, which really does kind of grow kind of small. And then there's the slicing cucumbers that you can slice and try to pickle those too. I'm going to cut this part off, and I'm actually going to do that for this one. But you'll also know that when a cucumber grows, right, it was hanging here on the stem, and this is where the blossom was. Now, the blossom end, there's some enzymes here that can really help make your cucumber get soft pretty fast. So you always want to cut off that blossom end. I cut, maybe 1/4 of an inch of the blossom end off. And then I'll just cut that top end too. So for these smaller ones, I am going to keep them whole. Let's see, this was the blossom end. Because I really actually love the idea of a whole pickled cucumber. I think they're so delicious that way. And then for the larger ones, we're gonna slice. All right, let's start. I think it was these 3 I was able to get into 1 jar. So I'm going to take one of my jars. I'm just going to add some garlic. I've got some crushed garlic I'm going to throw in, and I'm going to add some dill seeds. I'm not measuring anything. If you have dill heads, fresh dill heads from the garden, add that, because that would add some amazing flavor too. And I'm going to add a Thai chili pepper. Okay, so we're just going to start stuffing this in, and this is kind of like a game of Tetris at this point, to make sure you can get them all in. Now, I tried this earlier before I turned the camera on. It would be amazing if it works the way it did originally. But the benefit of stuffing them in this way is that I really won't need a weight to weigh them down. There we go. I think that's going to work. You just need to make sure the solid cucumber is below your liquid line. Okay, so that's pretty good. So I've got everything in there. I just might need to push that one down a little more. But this one is good. So let's get the others ready. We're not going to put our liquid in yet. So for these ones, I'm actually gonna, I'll do that. I'm gonna leave this one like, well, no, I'll do it. I'm afraid these are gonna get too mushy, so I want to be careful what I'm doing here. leave those two whole. So I'm going to do garlic in here, dill seeds. I'm not going to put a hot pepper in this one. And then just start shoving them in. This is a great way to preserve your your cucumbers without having to do the canning. Refrigerator, sometimes they're called refrigerator pickles, which I don't know if typically refrigerated pickles are fermented or not, but I just prefer fermented foods in general. They have that delicious, unique flavor that you really can't get anywhere else. I always say it's like a tang, but I think it's the best. And they're just full of probiotics. Good for your belly, good for your gut. All right, I am gonna get this sucker in here. Oh, there we go. Close enough. It broke a little bit. That's okay. All right, so that one's done, and then we've got this 1 pint left. I'm gonna use it for this. And I'm just gonna slice it. And same garlic, little dill seed. Now you could add other spices and herbs in here if you preferred. It's really your preference. Garlicky dill and spicy garlicky dill are my favorite. And my family's favorite. Okay, so that's good. All right, so that's good. So now we are going to make our brine. I have 3 cups of spring filtered water here. I am going to add 1.5 tablespoons of sea salt. 1.5. All right. I'm gonna mix that up. And then all we're gonna do is pour our brine in our jars. And you want the liquid, just like with any fermented product, the liquid needs to cover the solid. Okay, and you're gonna have some cucumbers that float. So you want to make sure you're weighing them down. So I've got a fermentation glass weight. I may have added too much liquid in. Okay. Yeah, that's a little high. Okay, and then we're gonna add our top. So I have these. These are like fermented airlock tops. They work so well. I love them. And they fit all wide mouth mason jars. So you basically just screw that on, and then it comes with this part. This is the airlock. And so this is gonna go in here, but you need to have a little water in here. So I'm just gonna get some water. So it's not much, but it's enough so that it allows air and gas to escape, but does not allow other air and bacteria to get in. So I'm gonna put this in here. It's gonna push that weight down a little bit. All right, and then we leave that. And you're gonna start to see bubbles come up, right? And that's the fermentation process beginning. But I'm gonna leave that probably a week. I'll check it every day or so, just on the counter. And really at that point, after a week, you're just tasting it, like smelling it, maybe take a bite, see what you think, if it's to your liking. It's all about your taste preference. This little one needs to go further down. I don't need a weight in here, but I do need to make sure covered. I'm not going to worry about the dill seeds that are floating. You may start to see some kind of bacteria or mold, and I say mold, the most benign mold, right? Like a white mold with those seeds, and it's okay. You can just take them off. Just skim them off with a spoon. Okay, and that one's ready. Last one, I actually need to make some more brine. All right, 3 cups water. One and a half tablespoons sea salt. And I won't even use all this. I know I won't, but I kept it the same, 3 cups, 1.5 tablespoons, because honestly, I didn't want to have to figure out the ratio. I probably could have. 1.5 cups water to 3/4 cup, or 3/4 tablespoon sea salt. I didn't feel like doing it. I just did it this way. Okay. And again, I don't think I even need to use a weight here. As long as this one stays down, we'll be okay. And the water is going to get pretty cloudy within your ferment. You'll start noticing that, and that is perfectly normal. Do not be alarmed by cloudy water. You may even start to see some water or some of the brine seeping out over a day or two, in the next day or two, and it kind of overflowing. That is perfectly normal too. That actually means you have a very healthy and active ferment. That's it. So easy, right? So there is one of our jars, and you can already see the water's pretty cloudy, and that's partly because of the brine, but it will get cloudier as the healthful, beneficial bacteria start growing. So you'll just want to make sure that you keep your jars in a cool, semi-dark place. I'll probably keep them on my counter so I can check them every day. I don't want to forget about them if I put them in the pantry. And plus, if they're overflowing and making a mess, you want to be aware of that and on top of that. So I'm going to keep them on my counter. I'm going to check them in about 5 or 6 days. But I know that we like our ferments pretty strong. So probably by day 7 or 8, I may then take everything off and then just lid them and jar them up normal and put them in the fridge. You do not need to take any of this out. Don't take it out of the brine and then put it in a separate container and put it in the fridge. Just leave everything as is, take your airlock off and put it in the fridge. Now, if you don't have an airlock, that is okay. You can use a normal canning ring with just a piece of fabric. The whole point is with fermenting is allowing those gases to escape and not letting other bacteria get in. So you just can't leave it open on the counter. You've got to have some sort of breathable barrier. So you can always use a canning ring and a piece of fabric. Don't stress out over having to buy any additional equipment. Okay, so try making your own fermented pickles. If you have never had one of these, you are in for a real treat. They, I think, are some of the best pickles anyone can ever make. You can sometimes buy them, but honestly, homemade is always better. I mean, let's face it, it really always is. So let me know if you have any questions. Happy fermenting. Stay healthy, stay well. See you next time.